Hi, it's Julian Reddish here from Sydney, Australia. Um, I had, hold on just a minute. Stroke 15 years ago, and since this time, I've obviously tried to recover through a lot of different methods, and I'm putting together a stroke recovery guidelines program for other stroke survivors to follow. And I'm interviewing a bunch of different stroke survivors from around the world to find out what has worked best in their recovery process and what hasn't worked. And I'm just waiting for Trazana to join me from the US. She seems to be very health focused and diet orientated, and I thought it'd be interesting to ask her a few questions. So I'm just waiting for her to join me. Um, she shouldn't be too long, but I found her on Instagram, and it looked like she was in charge and doing well with her stroke recovery. So I thought, oh, didn't she? Hello, hi.
Hey, Julian, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing okay.
That's good. That's good.
Uh, I think I'm getting the technology right.
Yeah, you're getting it right, are you?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
How are
I,
you doing today?
yeah, good, good. I was just sharing with um whoever's watching us about my journey and how I noticed you on Instagram about your health sort of focused direction when it comes to stroke recovery. Um, do you reckon you could share your story about how you had a stroke?
Well, I would share, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, of course, like most people, we had no idea I was going to have a stroke. Um, I my father had died. I buried him. He lives
Mm.
in Chicago, 5 hours away from where I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. After the funeral, the day after, we drove home. I went to work on a Friday, um, and was feeling by the end of the day, I was feeling really, really tired. So the next morning, which was Saturday, I was feeling exhausted, but I was going to go into the office because at the time I was an executive director of a nonprofit organization
Okay.
community. So
Yeah.
in a way, I had to check to make sure everything was moving smoothly. Well, my mom called, and I just felt really, really exhausted. And she sent my son over to my house because she knew I wasn't going to go to check my blood pressure or whatever. And mind you, I didn't have any blood pressure issues. I'd never had any underlying health conditions. Um, so had no idea that I was going to have a stroke. Went
Yeah.
to the nearest hospital just to check my blood pressure. My blood pressure was off the chart. They admitted me. 3 days later, I had my stroke. I had my stroke in the hospital.
Uh, well, that's lucky that you were close to people that can take care of you.
That's another story because I had to be transferred because they did not have the equipment to diagnose
Uh,
anything.
yeah.
They didn't have the MRI equipment or a technician, so I had to be transferred. But by the time I was transferred to the major hospital, UC Medical Center, I had already had two major infractions in my brain.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I got there, it was 3. Of course, I was, my family was told that I had a massive stroke and I probably would not be able to talk or walk again. Because of the stroke, I have aphasia. And they said I'd probably be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. That was almost 4 years ago. And if you can hear me and understand what I'm saying, that's not true. I'm not in a wheelchair. Even though I lost everything material things, I lost my home, my car, my income, and everything else. But through patience, perseverance, and just the love of the Creator, my ancestors, I'm able to talk and walk. And actually, if I wasn't eating healthy, my neurologist said that that stroke would have killed me. So
wow.
I didn't have any high cholesterol. I didn't have any, diabetes or, and the underlying stuff that you read about on, in certain blogs. I didn't have any of those. But unfortunately, after the stroke, my blood pressure is still high and it doesn't come down. I have to live with it for the rest of my life because it's not coming down. So I try to exercise. I do alternative things to keep me moving, meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, I garden, and those are things I was doing prior to the stroke. But
that's so
there was
good.
a window that I stopped doing any of those because I was stressed out and I was internalizing my stress, work, family, and things of that nature.
So what sort of meditation do you do?
Breathing. I do breath work in the morning. I have to get my days focused. Lately, I've been like, it's summertime here, so I go outside. I feed the squirrels and the birds because I got a backyard
Wow.
trees and so I sit out there and just in quiet. I don't think about anything, just in quiet in nature. Talking to the squirrels and the birds and the trees. I got chipmunks. I've seen a groundhog. I mean, so much is happening in the quietness of my recovery that I was always an outdoors person, but now I have no other choice but to really pay attention. And all these things that we tend to stress over, it's not worth the stress.
No, it's not, isn't it?
I mean, it's a new life, a new beginning for me. So I don't have to worry about, I mean, if I had it to do all over again, and if I knew that I was what not to do, I wouldn't have done some of the things, the thoughts, even though you don't say it, just your thought, everything begins with the thought. I would change the way I was thinking.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. And do you think that your mission in life has changed since you had a stroke? And if so, how?
Well, it's definitely had a detour. My mission had a detour because I've always had a mission to help people. And I was helping people on how to eat healthy, how to live sustainably. So my detour is changed, especially since I'm a stroke survivor. So my life has detoured. not only to help other stroke survivors, because it wasn't easy, the transition
No.
from me overnight, like most stroke survivors, it was a transition overnight. What am I going to do? How am I going to make a living? How's my quality of life going to be?
Yeah.
And none of those things mattered. Those are things that I was probably worried about prior, or not thinking about prior. But now it's like, it's just life to the 10th power for me now.
Yeah.
Those things I was worried about and concerned about doesn't matter. When you come face to face with death, and like, wow, I could have been gone and I wasn't ready to leave. So those things had changed. It's changed my life in terms of what I'm concerned about. Like, we're in the COVID right now.
Yeah.
People are worried and everything's happening. Things are changing. Yeah, I'm aware of those things, but I turn off the TV. I don't watch the TV. I
Yeah.
don't
Same
listen
here.
to the news. I scroll past people who, have posts about the COVID and to be vaccinated, not to be vaccinated. That's not my concern. My concern is just to enjoy life.
Yeah, it's
Enjoy
too
life.
short. It's too short, isn't it? Yeah. And I noticed you have a website selling a few different health products, the alternative stroke recovery website of yours. Um, how does it differ to regular stroke recovery? Like what do you offer on your website?
Well, I was always somewhat of an entrepreneur. So those are things I was selling prior to the stroke, but I've been more intentional because I don't push. Because what I used to do was go to natural hair care shows and sell my products, and
Yeah.
I would travel. But since I don't, but I sell like sage and essential oils. I call it intentional oils because I blend them specifically for like love and joy, and to help with stroke recovery and things of that nature. And so those are just to help provide a little income, not only for me, but also to help build my nonprofit organization. So when
Okay.
anybody buys something, a portion of the sale goes to the alternative stroke recovery fund, because ultimately what I want to do is help other stroke survivors, because at the time I didn't know of any help for me, especially people in my age group. And
Yeah.
I'm learning more and more. More stroke survivors are being more visual and being more vocal about their stroke and their journey. But eventually, what I want to do is help other stroke survivors with these, like, certain things that they may need that there is no resources for. So I want to give, like, some insurances will not pay for massage. Some insurance will not pay for acupuncture. And everybody is not insured. But there are certain things that will help with stroke recovery. Even if it's your way of living, even like if you have to pay your rent or pay your mortgage and, probably not be able to pay all of it, but every little bit helps.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm very lucky here in Australia. The government started a new fund called the NDIS, which is the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and that covers pretty much everything when it comes to stroke recovery and other people that have disabilities, all of their needs and medical therapists and stuff. So that's really good. But next year they're going to try to reduce the funding. I think that works. That happens all around the world. Like the government offers things, and then after a while they think, no, we shouldn't be giving away so much money, and then they try to
And
reduce it.
that sounds similar to what we have here in America. It's called Social Security Disability, but not
Okay.
everybody is entitled to it, and not everybody can get it. And depending on what state you live in, it could take. It took me 10 months to get approved
Oh
for
wow.
disability, and
Yeah.
so for 10 months I had no income because
Mm.
after I had my stroke, that was October 3rd, 2017. On January 2nd, 2018, I was released. The board of the directors at the organization I worked voted that if I could not come back to work, I would have to be terminated, be removed from my position. Not knowing, I mean, everything was hitting me all at once. Luckily, my mom is still living, and so I was able to move in with her to
Okay.
continue my
Lucky.
recovery with physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech therapy.
Yeah. Okay. That's so good. And I was wondering, how important is a good diet when it comes to stroke recovery?
Oh my goodness. You know what? It's so important because your body needs plant-based nutrition in order for your muscles and your bones to work. Not only that, excuse me. Not only that, a lot of people eat a lot of processed foods.
Oh
A lot
God,
of
yeah, yeah.
processed foods, um, uh, a lot of processed foods will make mucus in your body, inflammation in your body. So eating like in the morning, if I'm drinking water, I have herbal teas to help me because, like I said, the blood pressure medicine is not reducing my blood pressure. So I drink a lot of herbal teas. I make it morning. I call it a morning tonic, which is green.
Okay.
My fruit. I put turmeric, moringa, probably about 7 different herbs in there, spirulina, and I drink that, especially if there are days that I know that I'm not really eating properly. At least I get my nutrition in during the day, and it
Yeah,
helps
that's so
reduce
good.
any inflammation. Because if you know, like, what side was your stroke on, Julian?
On the right hand side of my brain, so the left
Okay,
hand side of my body. Yeah.
so your body, so every stroke is not the same, but we have ailments. Like it's been raining here because of the Hurricane Ida and the tropical
Yeah.
storm,
Okay.
but I can feel the barometric pressure. You
Oh
know,
wow, really?
when you have a stroke, your brain forms a like a sore. So that sore eventually is debris that moves away, but you still have that crater, like a scar in your brain. So your brain
Yeah.
has to find another way to do what you needed to do, but it's hard to move your body if you got a lot of inflammation. It's hard to, you feel aches and pains. And not only that, if you're on medications, that may be that may be hurting your body, even though it might be helping something else. So it's very important to me to eat the proper nutrition in terms of plants, herbs, so that I don't have the inflammation. It's helping my brain strength. It helps my muscle strength, helps my bone strength. Like my stroke happened on the left side of my brain, which affects the right side of my body. So I have issues with my toes curling. I
Yeah.
still have to exercise my leg, move my toes,
Okay. Yeah.
but I don't have the pain. With the acupuncture and chiropractic care and the proper nutrition, I don't have any pain. I mean, at the time I had my stroke, I didn't even know I had a stroke. I didn't feel like some people say they had headaches or they threw up. I didn't have any of that.
Well, when you were just talking about it's good on stroke recovery to eat plant-based foods. Like I've always been a meat eater, but over the past year or so, I've been experimenting with eating more fruit and vegetables. And after you eat a vegetarian meal, it's strange. It's like I don't feel full, but I don't feel hungry, and like my stomach just feels relieved. It's quite a pleasant feeling. It's nice.
Yes, it's a pleasant feeling. And then like I don't drink sodas. If I don't drink water, it's tea.
Yeah,
And that's better for you because tea is nothing but herbs that you pour hot water on.
yeah,
But I
exactly.
feel much better, and I know it's a big difference if I drink wine or something. The taste of wine, I love wine. Don't get me wrong, I love wine and tequila. But if I
Yeah.
overdo it, my body feels it. My
Yeah,
body,
yeah, exactly.
especially the next day. And then if I don't get up and move around, my body is so stiff.
Yeah. Does alcohol affect you a lot more than it did before you had a stroke?
I don't think it does, but it does.
No.
It does. I don't in my mind I don't think it does, but somebody can say, you don't sound right. I probably learn a lot more faster if I drink alcoholic beverages. So it's important as well, um, for me, for your brain health, not always, everything should be in moderation, but you have to be very, at least for me, be very, what's the word? You have to be very intentional not to overdo it
Exactly.
because
Yeah, yeah.
our brain is still healing, you know?
Mm.
And I know that from your previous, we had other conversations, and then when I first met you, it was on
Yeah.
AVM Heroes live he did, and you had your
Yeah.
stroke 15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So how much has changed in terms of recovery for you, in terms of what's available, or what they told you can do, or what you found out what you can do as opposed to now?
Um, I think they legally have to tell you the worst case scenario of like what could possibly go wrong with you. Like when I was in hospital, they said chances are I won't be able to walk or talk or eat or really anything. And I just remember being really stubborn, thinking I'm going to prove everyone wrong. And like I was in a wheelchair for a few months, but then I learned how to walk, and I was lucky enough to, when I came out of hospital, I was lucky enough to have access to very good medical professionals. Like normally when you come out of hospital here, I don't know if it's changed or not, but you might get access to see medical professionals for 2 or 3 months, and then that's it. So I've had ongoing help. I've had ongoing therapy for 15 years now. I'm lucky that my family's been able to fund that, and now with the NDIS, that's helping as well. But what was the question? Sorry, how has it changed, or how?
How how has your where you are in Australia? How has the access to alternative therapies changed? Like I know that like now where I am in Cincinnati, Ohio, I go to University of Cincinnati Medical Center, and when I first
Yeah.
had my stroke, they did not have an integrative medical center, but now they do in the last 2.5 years. So I go there for acupuncture. I've gone there for massage therapy. My
Yeah.
chiropractor is there, but my chiropractor focuses on stroke patients, Apex Chiropractic.
Okay.
But they have alternative therapies, not only for stroke related, but I think if I'm not correct, the initial reason for the alternative is for people who were on opioids and trying to find alternative pain.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I
I talked to my doctor like, hey, what about stroke patients? Because
yeah.
it's beneficial because I don't like taking medicines. I don't like taking pharmaceutical meds, even though
No.
I believe they can exist, and because I do take high blood pressure medicine, but I don't want to take pain medicine when I have pains.
Yeah.
So those therapies help me to relieve my pain. So how much, I guess I'm rephrasing the question, how
Yeah.
much has changed since you had your stroke 15 years ago as opposed to now?
I I've stayed with the same medical team throughout my whole journey. And that they've been a little bit more alternative than the kind of mainstream hospitals. But I think just in general, alternative medicines have become far more accepted and acceptable in this day and age. But I couldn't tell you how it's changed in the mainstream medical hospitals, because I don't really go to those public hospitals. I more go to private places. Um, but yeah, like I'm a huge believer in diet, exercise, meditation, just overall feeling mentally good. I think is a huge way that can help you improve after having a stroke. Um, and what about? I've written down a question here. How has the relationships in your life changed since you had your stroke? When I mention relationships, I mean a general sort of relationship question, like relationships with family members, friends, intimate partners.
Well, from the beginning of my stroke, that was a weaning out period. Initially, everybody came to the hospital. I was in the hospital
Yeah,
for 45 days. I didn't need help in the hospital. Hell, I had a care team around me. But when I got out of the hospital is where I needed help. And
exactly. Yeah,
I guess if I've had the help, I probably wouldn't have to have moved out of my condo, but I needed help. And not knowing that I was going to lose my job later either, but um, people started fading away. You know,
yeah.
initially,
Same here. Yeah,
yeah, people stopped calling. When I would call, because at the time, um, my speech wasn't as clear, but people stopped calling to see what their need. What can I do to help you? Or just calling to say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
I
I'm writing a chapter in my book about stroke recovery, and the chapter's on friends and about early on in my hospital visit. I had a lot of friends visiting me every day, and then after a while they just drop off. I guess they don't know how to react, or they don't know how to treat you, and they might find it too difficult. And then I guess that's just a normal journey in life. Like, friends drop off, but after having a stroke, I think it's a little bit more extreme. But then it really shows you who your true friends are, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, because I was always a person that would help everybody. People would
Yeah.
call me to ask me, I have a law degree. Not that I practiced law, but people will call me as a preliminary to get their legal answers or help them with resources. But when I needed it, only a handful of people were around. And it's not necessarily those who didn't come around all the time, because sometimes people come into your life for a reason, season, or lifetime.
Yeah,
There are some
exactly.
people I don't talk to every day that I know I can call them, but then there are some people that are only around just for what I could do for them. I
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
care more.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you could give advice to other stroke survivors, what would you tell them to help them in their journey, or to prepare them for what they have to go through?
Well, I would tell a new stroke survivor about the emotional changes you will go through. That's what the doctors, the care team didn't tell me. I didn't know, why am I crying for no reason? The
Mm.
emotional, and then going through the phases of depression. I never knew what depression was until I was depressed. I would at least alert them, in case you feel this way, this is why, because your brain is healing.
Mm.
All the emotional changes is part of the healing process. And I would also tell them not to give up and just take every day, each day at a time, because yesterday is gone and tomorrow is not here yet. Right now is all we have. So we have to
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
focus on getting through the day, doing what you need to do, whether it's reading. I used to, my chiropractor, I think I had a speech therapist, but he helped me the most with my speech. He's like, go and get you some Dr. Seuss books and start reading the Dr. Seuss books aloud. So
Uh,
that's how I started back reading. I mean, little simple things like that. With my aphasia, just reading out loud, reading nursery rhymes out loud, um, uh, writing my name on paper. Little simple things. Getting the elementary school paper and just start tracing letters.
yeah.
So
Okay.
just those small things, and to be, and not to take it hard on yourself, because non-stroke survivors, unfortunately, some of them do not understand. They don't understand stroke. They don't understand that everybody who has had a stroke is different, and
Yeah.
sometimes it be redundant to tell people over and over again, you are not the same person. In my words, sometimes I don't know about you, Julian. um Sometimes I can't control the fluctuation of my voice.
Yeah.
I can't control the emotions out of my voice. I've gotten a whole lot better since I had my stroke, but I still sometimes can't control the fluctuation. I can't control the emotion. I can't control the crying. I I can't control the laughing. Sometimes I guess
Yeah.
I should be crying and then I laugh. I mean, the
Yeah,
emotions
same. Yeah,
messed up.
same here. Yeah, yeah. Like I'm a lot more emotional, and I share a lot more without really thinking it through sometimes. But my level of awareness has improved a lot compared to where I was, and it's a stroke recovery is a continuous journey. I don't think there's any limit to how well we can keep on improving if we just keep on taking it one day at a time. I think that's very good advice. Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing that, and what I also would tell them is just, just be patient with yourself, because non-stroke survivors don't understand. And there are a lot of stroke survivors who don't have any physical deficits, but they have cognitive deficits. And
Yeah.
people don't understand, because you don't walk, because I walk with a limp. And I know that my limp was going to go away one day, but I still walk with a limp. And from time to time, like when it's raining, if the barometric pressure is heavy, I
Yeah.
will use a cane. And
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, and people ask me stupid questions.
Yeah.
And
But
I'm like, I had a stroke.
I guess we just have to help educate them because they have no reason to know anything about strokes.
That's true. And that's
Yeah.
why it's important that we have these conversations like this.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and I'm seeing a lot, like AVM Superhero. That was the first time I saw he was doing the series, and like his, that was an awesome thing to do, because I
Mm.
started doing videos probably about a year and a half ago. At first, I was just writing and typing, but um, I thought, well, how are people going to see or hear the different phases of the stroke if I'm not on camera or whatever? So it's important, in order not only to encourage other stroke survivors, but to also enlighten non-stroke survivors.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
to me, the word stroke, the word traumatic brain injury, those are just nouns to describe something that the medical world doesn't know about. I mean, they're still researching what strokes are.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not something you can catch. There's not something you can avoid. The most people that have the best health have strokes.
Mm.
And so you don't have to be old, you don't have to be sick to have a stroke. Babies have strokes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we've probably covered everything here today, but maybe we can have another video some other time. And thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope everyone's got a little bit of advice they can take home and try themselves in their stroke recovery journey. And yeah, and have an amazing night.
You too, Julian, and thank you again for inviting me. I enjoy talking to you all the time. So
Yeah, thank
thank you.
you. Thank you
Have,
so much. Okay, see you later.
okay, bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.